Long ago, there lived a smart young lad named Jim Hawkins, whose parents owned the Admiral Bamboo Inn beside the sea. One day, a sailor named Billy Bones came to stay in their inn. He was tall, huge, and had a big scar across one of his cheeks. He resembled a pirate. He spoke in a loud and harsh voice and carried a heavy iron chest with him. Young Jim was curious to know what was inside that chest. All day long, Billy kept looking at the ships through the window of the inn. Every night he would get drunk and start a quarrel with other customers. No one dared talk to him because he was just so mean and nasty, and he would beat them if anyone came near his table. Young Jim was impressed with Billy's strength. Billy told of his adventures at the sea and warned Jim about the one-legged man. Jim and his parents were unhappy because Billy never paid his bills. One evening, a mysterious blind man named Payu came to the inn and asked for Billy Bones. He gave Billy a piece of paper, and on that paper was one black dot right at the center of it. One glance at the paper, and Billy was on the floor. He had dropped dead. Jim hurried to see what had happened, but it was too late. Jim and his mother found the treasure chest under Billy's bed. They opened it, and to their surprise, they found bags and bags of gold coins. They decided to use the gold for the bills which Billy had not paid, and they also found a strange roll of paper. Suddenly, they heard gunshots outside. 3 policemen were standing nearby and had also heard the gunshots. They rushed there and found 2 gangs of pirates fighting among themselves. Seeing the policemen, the pirates ran away. Jim immediately understood that the pirates must have come to get Billy's chest. Jim asked the policeman if he could meet the squire. The squire patiently listened to Jim as he told him all about Billy, the chest, the rolled paper, and the attack. They decided to open the paper and discovered that it was the map of an island revealing the path to a buried treasure called Flint's Fist. Very excited, the squire decided to go to the island himself and hunt for the treasure. He invited Jim to come with him. The squire hired a ship named Hispaniola, and they sailed to Treasure Island. On the first day of their journey, Jim met a cock, John Silver, who had only one leg. No sooner did Jim meet him than he remembered Billy's warning against the man with one leg. He became very suspicious and stayed away from John Silver, but Jim's fear disappeared once he talked with John Silver. He was a nice, jolly man. He took Jim to his kitchen, and while cooking dinner, told him funny stories. Jim liked him very much. After dinner one night, Jim was crawling into the large barrel to get an apple when he fell inside. As he was coming out, he heard footsteps. It was Long John Silver. He and his men were plotting to hijack the ship. Get the treasure, and murdered the squire and his men. Jem knew he had to tell the squire immediately. Jem ran and told others about Silver's plan. The squire thought long and hard for quite some time and asked them to wait until they reached the island before they did anything. He warned others to be careful of Silver. Soon they arrived at the island, and everyone got into a rowboat to get to shore. Silver had become suspicious of the squire, and as soon as the island became visible, he jumped out of the boat to get ashore first. Once the boat touched the shore, Jem also jumped out and ran into the forest before anyone could stop him. Once Jem was deep in the island's forest. He met a strange, beggarly-looking man named Ben Gunn. He was another pirate from Flint's gang who was marooned on the island 3 years ago. Jem told him about the treasure. Ben agreed to help Jem. Suddenly, they heard gunshots. They hid behind the bushes, and they saw the squire and Silver fighting with each other. Silver quickly ran into the bushes, where he found Jem and the strange man. He asked them to accompany him in the search for the treasure. Jem reluctantly agreed. He had no other choice. As they walked, they came across a skeleton and a big hole in the ground. Everyone thought that they found the treasure and started to dig at once. Meanwhile, the squire came after Silver with his crew. Silver and his men were outnumbered. They were surrounded, and Silver surrounded and apologized for his mistakes, and he was forgiven. Ben had already found the treasure earlier and had moved it to the safe place. He led them all to the treasure. Early the next morning, they were all ready to journey back home. It was a memorable adventure which no one would ever forget. John Silver was the changed man now. He wanted to help Jem and his mother and look after them in the end. Jem had found a new friend. Centuries ago, there was a young girl named Mulan in ancient China. She lived with her parents and a dog whose name was Little Brother. Her father was once a great warrior, but not anymore, as he was injured in a war. One day, terrible news comes that China's enemy, the Huns, have invaded again. The emperor orders all the men in the country to fight. As her father could not fight, Mulan comes up with a plan. She offers a prayer to her ancestors, cuts off her hair with a sword, and it changes into her father's warrior clothes. While her parents are asleep, she takes along Mushu, a dragon, jumps onto Khan, her father's horse. And goes to join the army, where everyone believes her to be a man. She meets Captain Li Shang at the training camp. Mulan struggles at the training camp, but impresses everyone by accomplishing the toughest task to retrieve an arrow from the highest pole. Meanwhile, the Han's army surrounds the Chinese army. Mulan gets an idea, and she uses Mushu's fire to light a cannon. This causes a huge avalanche, and Hans gets buried under the snow. But when the snow starts racing, Khan and Mulan see that Chang is in danger, and they pull him to safety. During the war, Mulan injures herself, and a medic on duty discovers that she is a woman. The angry Chang leaves Mulan behind. As Mulan sits disheartened, she hears Hans' voices and realizes that they are alive and planning to attack the Chinese emperor. Mulan informs Chang about what she heard, but he does not trust her. When Shang Yu, the leader of the Huns, kidnaps the emperor, Mulan and Chang pair up to rescue the emperor. They defeat the Huns and free the emperor. Mulan is appreciated and praised for her bravery by everyone, including Captain Chang and her father. In the middle of the ocean, there is a small island shaped like an ark. Here, monkeys play on the beach and in the trees. But how did the monkeys get there? Once, an English admiral was exploring Africa when he found hundreds of monkeys. The admiral's character was mean. He thought, I could sell these monkeys and become very rich. I'm going to take them to England. So, the admiral set traps to catch the monkeys. He put stakes in the ground, tied a string around them, and made loops in the string. When the monkeys ran through the forest, their feet got caught in the loops, and they couldn't escape. Then the admiral put the monkeys in cages on his ship and sailed away. The cages were small and uncomfortable. There was no soft hay for the monkeys to sleep on. Instead, they slept on branches with sharp thorns that cut into the monkey's flesh. For dinner, he gave them tiny pieces of sour grapefruit to eat. The monkeys grew hungry and weak. But one day, the admiral hired a new steward. He was a kind man with a good conscience. He was horrified to see the thin monkeys in the cages. So, one night he let them out. The monkeys ran and played all over the ship. They attacked the admiral and the steward and ate their food. They completely wrecked the ship. One monkey ran into a kerosene lamp and it fell over. The ship caught fire and began to sink. The whole crew was lost except for the monkeys. After the accident, the monkey jumped onto a raft. They floated away from the fiery blaze of the ship. In the morning, they saw a little island in the distance. The monkeys used a piece of wood as a paddle, and they went toward it. They found the island shaped like an ark. They felt so happy to find a new home, and they still live there today. Once there lived a young man. His name was Sindbad. He was a good merchant. He sailed around the world and sold his goods. On each voyage, he had some wonderful and thrilling adventures. On one of the voyages, he went to China by a ship with dates from Arabia. When he was returning home, he was caught in a storm, and his ship was swallowed by the waves. But to his luck, he saw a broken wood from the wrecked ship near him. he held on to the wood and got fainted. When he woke up, he was in a strange land on all sides of him. There were huge white-colored rocks, smooth and shiny. He wondered and went near the stones. He examined and found that they were the eggs of giant eagles. Suddenly, a huge eagle landed near him. He was only the size of its toes. He was frightened and wondered how he could escape from the huge bird. Just then, some more birds also alighted near the eggs. He saw some birds flying away, so he found an idea to escape. He slowly went near a bird and tied himself to the toes of a bird by a rope. The huge bird carried him away. After some time later, it landed in a valley. It was the Valley of Diamonds. He quickly released himself from the bird. He saw diamonds and other precious stones all around. Just then a piece of meat fell beside him. Soon a huge bird picked meat with its beak. Sindbad then remembered the story of the valley. People used to throw meat pieces into the valley. The precious stones got stuck on them. Then the birds carried meat to their nest. The people frightened the birds by beating drums. The people collected the diamonds from its nest and became rich. Sindbad packed up as many diamonds as he could. Then he waited for another eagle. As soon as it landed, he tied himself to its toes. Then the bird flew into its nest. Soon he freed himself. The people were frightened to see him in the bird's nest. Sindbad told what had happened to him. When they heard the story of his adventure, they brought him to their king. He was honored by the king. Sindbad boarded a ship passing by. He went to Arabia and made arrangements for his next voyage. Once there lived a prince. His name was Zion. One day he went for hunting in the forest. When he was going into the deep jungle, he saw a beautiful girl. She was searching for something. He had never seen such a beautiful girl ever before. She came near him and said, "You young man, please help me to get out of the forest." Prince readily agreed to help the girl. Both were on the horse and rode out of the forest within minutes. When he was nearing the plains, they saw beautiful flowers all around in all colors. The girl asked the prince to stop the horse and got down from the horse to pluck some of the flowers. The prince waited on the horse. The girl was moving away plucking the flowers and was soon out of sight. The prince waited for some more time, but she did not turn back. So he got down from the horse and went towards the direction she had gone, but he couldn't see her there. He came near a rock. There he saw the girl talking to somebody. He went near them without their knowledge. The beautiful girl was really an ogress. and she was talking to an ogre. She said, "A prince is waiting outside the cave on a horse. I will bring him soon," she said in a happy voice. The prince knew she was none but the beautiful girl, being an ugly-faced ogress. She had changed her figure to attract the prince. He decided to put an end to her, so he quickly moved to the horse and waited on the horse, expecting the ogress girl. When she came near the prince and said, "Can we go?" the prince sprang on her with his sword and killed her in no time. So he put an end to the wicked ogress and returned to his palace safely. Once, a fisherman lived in a village. He led his life with his earnings from fishing. One day, he cast his net into the sea. He waited for some time and pulled the net out. But there was nothing in the net. He felt worried and thought in his mind, "Today my family and I will starve without food." He tried again and again, but was in vain. Finally, he cast the net without any hope into the sea. After a few minutes, he pulled the net. He felt that the net was heavy. His face brightened. "It looks there is a big fish in the net." But when he pulled out the net from the sea, he saw a big old jar in the net. It was closed by a beautifully decorated lid. He tried and opened the jar. There came a huge genie with an ugly, wicked face. He laughed in high pitch. "I have been hungry inside the jar. I want food immediately. I shall eat you," he said in loud voice. On hearing this, the fisherman was terribly afraid, but he gathered his courage and said, "You are so big. How can I satisfy your hunger?" The wicked genie again asked him to come near so that it could eat the fisherman. Again the fisherman said, "I am poor. I didn't do any harm to you. Then why do you want to kill me, genie?" But the genie said, "I would not hear your words again. Come near me quick." But the fisherman had an idea in his mind to escape from the genie. He said, "I am ready now, but before you kill me, you have to answer my question." "Quick," the genie said with anger. The fisherman asked him how such a huge genie could be inside a small jar. The genie replied that he could make himself as tiny as he. The fisherman wanted to test it, so the genie made himself as little as possible and jumped into the jar. Suddenly, the fisherman closed the jar as quickly as he could and threw the jar into the sea. So, the wicked genie was locked inside the jar once again. The fisherman was very happy and he escaped from the danger. In English, there is a common idiom, "let the cat out of the bag." It means to tell a secret. But where did this idiom start? It came from a section of England. Long ago, people there went from town to town to sell things like vegetables, clothes, and pigs. They had strong beliefs about honesty. They didn't like lying. One day, a man went to the section center to sell things. "I have a baby pig for sale. It won't cost much," he said. He held the animal above his head. His style was different from honest people's style. He was a master of tricking people and lying. A woman named Beth scanned his pig. He offered her the pig for 1 gold coin. That was a very small amount. Beth gave him the coin. He put it in his pocket. He walked ahead of Beth to get the pig and gave her a closed bag and said, "Here is your pig." He then left very quickly. Beth looked at the bag's surface. It was moving. She opened it to let the pig out. "A cat was inside. He tricked me. That isn't proper," she said. Later, the man returned to trick more people. Beth saw him, and the memory of the cat came back. She told her friends. They stopped him, but no one knew what to do next. Someone said, "We need an independent and fair person to decide that." They went to the judge. Beth told him about the cat in the bag. The judge asked, "Is there evidence? Can you demonstrate how he did it?" "Look in his bag," said Beth. She opened it and let a cat out of the bag. They learned the man's secret, and he went to jail. That's how the idiom, "let the cat out of the bag," came to mean to tell a secret. Once upon a time, a farmer, Guppy, lived in a village. He had few acres of land. One hot afternoon, the poor farmer was digging his field. All of a sudden, his spade hit something. Then he continued his digging. "It is a big metal pot," said Guppy. It was big enough to buy rice for more than 100 people. "It does not seem to be of any use to me. I will dig deeper. Maybe I will find something else," thought Guppy. He continued to dig. After he had dug for a long time, Guppy felt tired. "It is of no use. There is nothing in this field," he thought. Then at once he threw the spade into the pot in frustration and sat under a tree to take rest for a while. After a while, when he got up to leave, he could not believe his eyes. There were 100 spades in the pot. "This is a magical pot. I will put this mango inside the pot and see what happens," Guppy thought. Then Guppy put a mango into the pot. To his astonishment, he found 100 mangoes in the pot. Guppy carried the pot to his home and kept in a secret place so that no one would become aware of it. After that, he put many things in that, and everything became hundredfolds. With that pot, he became a rich man. The king came to know of the pot and its whereabouts. The king was curious to know about it, and he was a greedy king. I want to find out the secret of the magic pot. If it is valuable, it should be in the king's treasury, the king thought. Then at once the king ordered his men to bring the farmer and his pot. When the magic pot was brought to the king's chamber, he did not know what to do. The king thought, "Let me see what is there inside this pot. Which makes this pot so magical?" He peered inside. Inadvertently, he slipped and fell inside the pot. When he climbed out of the magic pot, he was shocked to find that there were 100 kings. All the kings then started to climb the throne. They fought among themselves and died. The magic pot lay in the king's treasury. The foolish king took away the magic pot from me out of curiosity, and eventually he died. This magic pot has killed the king himself, said the farmer, and he, to be safe, left the magic pot at the treasury of the king itself.